Welcome, gentle listeners, and welcome to Go, My Favorite Sports Team. Your man of sports knowledge is here, Tyler, and so is the wonderful Mark.
Hello. I'm here as well.
Well, you were telling me about your new little,
Yeah, I
toy.
am exhausted, everyone listening to this at home. I bought on a whim, because I literally saw this video the night before of someone riding a unicycle, but not just any unicycle, an electric unicycle. It just popped up in my recommendeds, and I was just like, okay, I guess this is what I'm watching. And this thing can go 45 miles an hour. Not the one I got, because I was not going to get that one because I was way too much power, but I bought, quote-unquote, not entry-level.
No, it's your entry level.
Yeah, my entry level, because I'm so skilled at this stuff. I bought a I don't want to say the name until they sponsor us, until they pay me money. I don't even say names.
You can just say how fast it goes.
This one only goes like 31 miles an hour only, quote unquote. only. It's like got a 2200 watt motor. It can have 75 miles of range. It's got like tons of batteries packed into a unicycle. And I've never ridden a unicycle in my life, let alone an electric one. So I spent about an hour trying to just stand and move on it. And then my goal at the end of it was just to like ride it in one circle, one continuous looping circle, even if it fell right as I got to the end of the circle. It's really difficult because you tense every muscle in your body trying to find that balance, and you got to my heart rate was like up at 165 the entire time that I was trying this for especially the last like 30 minutes of it. I was just continuing like, I gotta get this, I get in these modes. And so I did that. I literally, when I got off it and I did it, I was just like, I was so out of breath. I had no idea. And I wasn't going anywhere. That's the craziest thing. It's just I was tensing all the muscles in my body and trying to make quick micro adjustments. But I got an electric unicycle and I rode it a little bit. I do not plan to make it my daily driver or commute on it or anything. It's just for fun. It is only for that purpose. And I will not take that on normal city streets.
It's almost like after a certain point in time, you find a new challenge.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Like at one point, it was like learning guitar. Mm-hmm. And being able to do that. And I feel like every time you get an interest into something, right now it's recently become like motorized things.
Specifically electrically motorized
things.
And yeah, because I got an e-bike a while ago, Super 73. Please sponsor the podcast. We would give you all the love in the world because I love my e-bike. It's a Super 73 RX. They are apparently talking about making me a custom one. Ooh. So then maybe you, Tyler, can also get a sweet, sweet ride.
Well, I'm excited because I have ridden one. When I hung out with you on the 4th of July, we rode up and watched some fireworks. Yeah. And it was quite a joy.
Until yours ran out of battery.
Yeah, that's not their fault.
We forgot to charge that one. That was already dead by the time you got on it.
So if anyone knows me, I either like to be in the front of a pack or the back of the pack. So I was in the back of the pack. And everybody's up this hill and they're like, where's Tyler? And I'm pedaling up this giant hill.
And you kept up. I was shocked because I could only take that thing up maybe like 5 miles an hour up that thing.
I had motivation. I was lost and there were cars.
No, but I love this thing. Just the other day from recording this, I actually rode that 16 miles to Corridor, which I'm doing an internship with them. And then I rode it 10 miles, and then I rode it 16 miles back home, about 15. I forgot to charge it at the second stop, so it died just before I got up the mountain. And it was just like right at the bottom of it. I was just like, oh my God. So Amy had to come rescue me. But I love that thing. I've put about 300 miles on it so far, and I've had it for maybe like 2.5 weeks.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because today's episode, after we deal with the important sports news and the, what do we call it? The part where your soul gets merged with the spirits of the ether.
The possession.
the possession. Of your guys' comments that are directed towards me. But we are going to be talking about motorsports today.
Okay, but first up, we've got the position. Tyler.
Oh, yes. I'm ready.
Okay, all right. Aiden Draws RE says, as much of a non-sport person as I am, I think the podcast is excellent for introducing someone like me to sports. This is going great. Tyler's explanations and footnotes provide a lot of insight into games and sports culture. Additionally, some of Mark's anecdotes, not anecdotes, ground the audience. That said, I think Mark can get a little grating most of the time. And my point is, can the showmanship be toned down a little? I think of Go My Favorite Sports Team as a dialogue, not a competition. And although I understand the thought process of playing the idiot, does he have to play that role so frequently? And I say to that, how dare you? I've never been so mad at a ghost possessing my body. You think I'm playing the idiot? I make jokes, sure. I make silly comments all the time. That's not me playing an idiot. It takes a lot of brain power to make jokes, everybody. It takes a lot of brain power to come up with wacky scenarios or different questions that are important because they're pertinent to the audience who is not a smart person understanding it. My intelligence outweighs you. I am a towering mountain of mindful magnificence, and you are all but shadows in the valley of destitutity and ignorance. And I will not be slandered. This is a Tyler roasting segment of the podcast, and I will take no further criticisms.
I also would like to add to this in the fact that all of those instances where you think Mark's hamming it up actually helps to force me to think about things in a different way.
I thought you were going to say all those moments when you think Mark's hamming up, he's really that stupid. No. I thought that's what you were going to say.
I could have said that, but no. No, it forces me to think about things that I don't normally think about with the sports I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Like, it's almost like when I went on a live stream with you and we talked about Five Nights at Freddy's, and I'd never played Five Nights at Freddy's.
Right.
It's one of those things where a person thinks about it in a different manner so that it forces you as an individual to be able to explain it in a different way so that it's understood by people that don't know the necessary like jargon or dialect that go along with the sport that I'm referring to.
Yes, yeah. So in all honesty, like I'm not bothered by this at all. No. I like to talk. This is how we normally talk anyway, just in terms of joking and being ridiculous. Like none of this is all that different from our normal dialogue. But at the same time, there are many moments when I really don't know what the hell you're talking about, and I have to do it, but I am trying to phrase my questions in a way so that it gives Tyler the right opportunity to answer in a way that will be digestible and understandable. So it's not that I'm dumbing it down for everyone. I'm trying to understand, and I make very pointed questions that may seem obvious to you, and it doesn't mean I'm dumb. I make jokes, but it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
And also, we're entertainers. It's supposed to be fun to listen.
Yeah. Stupid. You're the dumb one. All right. Professor Gigi says, Tyler says no but way more than he says nuance, which is interesting. Because
no but?
You say no, comma, but, which is interesting because all of those improv classes we've taken for years.
Yeah, but I have to correct you when you say something that's not accurate.
Well, do you or you're not yes-anding me?
I'll yes and your things.
Yes,
of...
and you're an idiot.
No, I'm going to take Bob's. I'm going to yes but you.
Yeah, you just did. You went yes but. I heard it. All right. So this is an actual question, sports related. I don't have the person who asked it, but question from a Welshman, if that makes any difference. A Welshman. Okay. Should athletes be made to finish college before going pro?
Okay, so this is an interesting topic because this is a thing that I have an issue with regards to collegiate athletes being amateurs, right? In the United States, it is a point that at 18, you are an adult. You can sign contracts, you can do everything any normal adult can do with your name, likeness, image, all of that stuff.
Cool.
So I personally believe that the NCAA is in cahoots with professional sports organizations, forcing athletes to have to go to college and compete for their own monetary gain. The NCAA wants that money.
Really?
So that athletes have to be so much removed from high school before they go pro. They hide it in a guise. There's actually a whole episode I can do on this, but I'm going to give a brief overview. They hide it in a guise that's kind of like, we want them to be more educated, more knowledgeable.
Uh-huh.
But in reality, what they're just doing is forcing people to have to attend college in order to eventually make it pro. And I don't think that's fair because at 18, I could sign a contract, I could get a job, I could join the military. Any of those things you could do at 18, but why can't I go pro?
Okay, but what about from this angle? So when you're 18, yes, you have all the rights and whatnot. But technically speaking, you're not done growing at that
Correct.
point. Physically, a lot of people get pretty close to fully mature at 18. Mentally, though, the brain doesn't stop growing until about 24-ish.
I think that's about the age, yeah.
It continues with the neuroplasticity of early young adulthood until that point, in which case it's a slow decline to the grave. But up until that point, do you think that there's a benefit to going through college to doing more training and conditioning and practice before going to the pro levels, where you typically do have these adults that are in the prime of their physical condition and could be like much more intensive and maybe hurt the 18-year-olds coming in?
I think that we could do an entire episode on this. And so to answer your question, yes, but I still think it's a guise for money making as to why the NCAA forces it as opposed to trying to control and protect people.
Okay, because that is fascinating. Because that does sound, I would totally believe that there's some kind of like, not so much a conspiracy, but just like people do go for maximum profit no matter what. And what would be the point of college if these athletes were like straight out of high school being like, you are good enough to be in the pros. Why not go straight to the pros? Wasn't LeBron James, he was...
Kobe Bryant as well.
Kobe Bryant also just like straight out of high school, right?
Yep.
And in all honesty, for most athletes, that's not
it's not
possibility.
It's not highly likely that it could happen, but it should be an option.
Yeah, most people do get better from 18 to say 25 in whatever skill they choose, right?
Right, but baseball, you're allowed to get drafted out of high school.
Okay.
It's literally, they're mostly focusing on like the NBA and NFL.
But football, you're not allowed?
Correct. You cannot be signed out of high school. NBA, you can no longer be signed out of high school. So those are the two highest money-making sports for the NCAA. So there's too much that points to it's money. But yeah, we'll do a full episode on that. That's a really good topic.
Oh yeah, the episode will be like the dirty money of sports. All right. So, hey, Tyler and Mark, got a question, says direct_sarcasm. What would be your perfect workout for your perfect athlete?
The perfect workout for my perfect athlete?
I'm not assuming this is talking about our Frankenstein creation that we made, my basking shark mouth turbojet, athlete. Just like if you were to be the best athlete in the world, most physically and unbelievable, what would be that workout?
Okay, so first things first, they live at high altitude.
Okay.
The maximum altitude you can live at safely.
Okay.
And
the
then
space station.
And they train at absolute sea level or below sea level. I'm talking about the altitude training complex.
Their house is at the top of Mount Everest, but they go down the mountain to train.
Yeah, but not at the top of Mount Everest because that's detrimental. There's like an altitude where it's the peak amount of positive benefit for your body to adjust to hypoxic environment.
Mount Kilimanjaro.
Don't know the altitude
Mount
of it.
St. Helens.
Wherever you can go to the top of and you don't need an oxygen tank and you're not your body isn't dying.
Okay.
Because there are a few things that happen when you're at altitude and why living at altitude and training at sea level is highly effective. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it has to do with your body getting used to a hypoxic environment, so it uses oxygen more efficiently. You also burn more energy when you're at higher altitude. Your appetite tends to be lower, so you have to kind of force yourself to eat. This is all stuff that I learned in anatomy and physiology and exercise physiology and everything in that front.
Oh, okay.
That's the first thing. The second thing is majority of the training that they would do, there's going to be heavy lifting, explosive training.
Explosive training.
So you're talking like Olympic lifts, like things where you are doing a clean or a snatch, which is where you bring the bar from the clean position to over your head and then go up.
Yeah.
They're going to be jumping rope. They're going to be doing things, a lot of plyometric type stuff, a lot of high intensity training stuff. Because my perfect athlete is not an endurance athlete. Endurance athlete and sprint athletes are very distinctly different. Mm-hmm. Mine would be a very explosive athlete because there's a lot more sports that require explosive movement as opposed to endurance movement. And there's a lot that do require endurance as well. But for me, when I picture the perfect athlete, they're explosive.
Okay.
They're off the line quick, they're running fast. And then the part that gives them the endurance is the living environment and the benefits of living at altitude.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I can't say why that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
What if they're on the top of Mount Everest and they have to bike back up? That's another workout. It's even better. They get another at the bottom, then they go swimming or something. I don't know. But they have to bike all the way back up.
Yeah, they also swim. Yeah, because swimming after you exercise helps your muscle recovery because it's an active rest. If you do it smoothly, you're not pushing yourself really hard. And it has the cooling nature of a pool, because if you ever swim competitively, the pools are kind of colder. So it's like not quite an ice bath, but it has the same elements, and it helps pull toxins and remove toxins out of the muscles.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm still not going to do ice baths.
That's fine.
I don't want to. I don't like them, man.
Dude, in 2 days, when you are finished getting out of pads in 109-degree heat, ice baths, they suck, but they are heaven afterwards, because they have saved me so many times for the next practice of having my legs under me.
What's a 2 a day?
2 practices a day.
How long is a practice?
Usually about an hour and a half. So we have a practice in the morning. We usually have, then afterwards we'd take an ice bath. Then we'd be in meeting rooms going over film and plays. Then we'd probably have lunch. Then after lunch, we'd probably have some sort of minor lifting and stretching. And then we'd go back out on the field and run plays and basically do the exact same thing again. I did it in water polo all the time. We had morning practice during school. I'd get to the school, Mark, at like 5 a.m. And we'd swim and lift, eat breakfast, go to class. This is why I fell asleep in some classes. And then afterwards, we would practice again.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay, that's fine. But
all right.
The perfect athlete will probably do 2 a days.
What about 3 days?
Kobe Bryant did 2 a days.
Actually, here's a funny thing. Not to extend this too long, but I did 2 days for a while. When I was training with Alex, what I would do is in the morning we had our 7 a.m. session, and I would train for an hour, and it was pretty intense. A lot of what you're talking about, like plyometric stuff, and lifting. Then in the afternoons, because for some reason I was super obsessed with getting in incredible shape, and for a while there I was in really, really good shape. I had this is not a good metric, but I was doing like a 30-minute 5K. I was maxing out my dumbbell set that I had. I was doing incline with 32.5 kilograms. When I started, I was not anywhere near. And then in the afternoons, I went to this CrossFit gym, and I was doing CrossFit there too. I was not great at what I was doing, but I was able to keep up the entire session. CrossFit's kind of funky and weird. I'm not shitting on it or anything. I love watching CrossFit competitions, but it was weird because when I got there, they were like, all right, you're going to clean and jerk. And I'm like, oh, what? I don't know how to do. And here's the bar. It's like
clean.
Yeah.
Jerk.
I know. I've seen people do it, but doesn't mean I know the muscles to do it. Thankfully, the gym owner gave me some pointers, but it's a lot of people there, and he's like, yeah, just have fun. And I'm like, I could die. Anyway.
I could die.
That's pretty much how I felt the entire time there. And they were like, yeah, we're going to do a muscle up now. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I've never done one of those before. I didn't do one that day. But yeah, I did 2 a days for a while there. That was really intense. I only did it for 2 weeks. So
yeah, that's usually how long camp was for football.
Yeah, but I was measuring. I was burning 4,000 calories a day.
Yep. There's a reason I ate an insane amount of food when I was playing water polo.
Yeah. But anyway. Enough of this burning calories nonsense. Enough of this using your muscles crap. This is the sports news. What's new in the world today, Tyler?
Well, there's a big thing happening with college football. A lot of the major conferences in college sports are realigning and becoming super conferences. It's looking like there's going to be 4 major conferences instead of, I think there's 8 now. The Big Ten is acquiring UCLA and USC. So...
Okay, back up a
step. Okay, go ahead.
So when you say super conference, what is a normal conference?
A normal conference was 10 schools.
Okay.
That would compete in all of their athletic events. So the Big Ten, for example, is Michigan, Ohio State, Rutgers, Maryland, Michigan State, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois. Originally, it was called the Big Ten because there were 10 schools. Okay. And that's a conference for sports and collegiate athletics.
Oh, okay. So what I thought the Big Ten was the selected teams after they've played through.
No, that's a conference that plays against each other to determine a conference champion who then moves on potentially into the college football playoffs.
Okay. So is this what you said with football about how there's the East and West thing, right? The NFL football teams.
Oh, you're talking about AFC versus NFC.
Yeah,
and each one has their own conference.
Is that a conference?
Yeah, AFC North is a conference. Okay, so AFC North is the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Cleveland Browns.
So what's the benefit of a super conference?
The benefit of a super conference is that it helps in determining who is actually the most prestigious and best performing school. And ultimately, it comes down to money. It's so that the schools can hype up, because SEC, the Southeastern Conference, has an agreement with ESPN for media rights to broadcast their games.
All right.
And so they're considered the best of the best, and they argue they're the best football program in the world, in the nation.
The conference.
In college, yeah.
Who owns the conference?
It's usually like a board of directors and trustees, and nobody I can't think of anybody who owns the conference. It's like a conference underneath the NCAA, much like the AFC North is a conference under the NFL.
So going back to feudal times as a comparison, this is like the vassals organizing under the king, each state sovereign territory within the country united, each is divided up into vassalhoods, and sometimes other countries can be.
Yes.
But they're all subservient to the king. The kingdom
is the conference.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
That I had to think that broke my brain, because I think so sports that this is so common knowledge, but I was honestly, oh my gosh.
This is all news to me. But
so
anyway.
It's basically they organize to compete against each other every year. So Michigan and Ohio State play every year, so think about it like the round robin tournaments. You play everybody. And then the best record against everybody moves on into the bracket tournament.
And this is significant because there's
massive realignment.
Realignment. What does that mean?
That means schools are leaving the conference they're currently in and joining another one.
Is it not dictated by distance, like in a certain area?
It used to be. It's not anymore. Because the way technology is advanced with flights and buses and all the stuff that we have now versus when the NCAA first formed, it's a lot easier for them to just travel for games. The Big Ten mostly was like the Midwest. It was like Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Illinois, Indiana, and then it kind of expanded a little bit and went in and grabbed Nebraska and Iowa, Minnesota. It was all that Great Lakes area. And now they've expanded and grabbed teams that are not in that region.
Okay, cool. Got it. I got it.
Okay.
I got it. I'm good.
The crazy part is complete West Coast. Here in LA, UCLA and USC are leaving the conference that was mostly the West Coast Conference, which was called the Pac-10. It was the Pacific Athletic Conference.
Okay.
They are leaving now in the next couple of years to join the Big Ten.
Okay.
And the SEC has been doing the same thing and grabbing schools like Texas A&M and the teams that were in the Big 12, which were mostly also the Midwest, but the Southern Midwest.
Oh, the Big Ten is 10 conferences.
No, it's one conference.
Damn it.
The Big Ten is one conference.
What is the Big 12?
The Big 12 is another conference. So
you can't have the Big 10 and the Big 12.
Yes.
The Big 12 would contain some of the Big 10. It would be the bigger 12.
No.
It would be the bigger 12.
That's not how it works.
Yes, it is.
No, that's not how it works.
They can't both be the Big 10 and the Big 12. It doesn't make any sense. They're not equally big. One's 10, one's 12. One's bigger than the other, by definition.
It was defined by the number of schools that were in the conference.
Then they don't count right. Are these colleges? I thought they knew things. I thought they were educated. 12 is bigger than 10.
Okay, on to a different news thing.
Okay.
There were 10 schools in the Big 10. There were 12 schools in the Big 12. They were different schools.
Okay.
But they both decided to call themselves Big this number, and that's how they became their
You'd think, though, that if you were in the marketing department and you knew they made the Big 10, you'd be like, well, we'll be the bigger 12. We'll be the Baker's Dozen. Baker's Dozen team. Is there a Baker's Dozen conference?
There's a Sun Belt conference.
What is that?
There's a Mountain West conference.
Well, I don't care about those. Tell me when there's a Baker's Dozen conference.
There's an American conference. The names are arbitrary.
They're all in America.
I know, they're arbitrary. They're arbitrary names that just are we're a part of this group.
Oh, my God. Okay, all right. I'm moving on. I'm moving past.
The other thing is the WNBA just had their All-Star game.
Okay, cool.
And it turned out that Team Stewart lost to Team Wilson.
Okay.
They're named after the captains who chose the members of the team, much like the NBA does that. They do the same thing.
This was an all-star game, right?
Correct. So this was the best of the best.
Okay. So do they, in schoolyards, go round robin, pick teammates?
Yes.
I pick you, I pick you, I pick you.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
They moved to that,
I like that
system,
Yeah.
I think, within the last 5 years.
It's more fun that way.
Yeah, and the whole thing is it's just to put on a show and have fun and highlight who's good.
Okay.
Like, both of them, the team who wins and the team who loses, money goes to charity.
Yeah.
So they've integrated that, and it's really cool. All of the players, though, were wearing Brittany Griner's jersey.
The one who's currently in
Russia.
In Russia, right?
Yeah, who's trapped in Russia.
Which makes no sense. Why has she not been rescued yet?
Yeah.
It's completely absurd.
I mean, whatever is going on diplomatically, I know very little of it other than she's being kept in a Russian prison, and it's just because she was found to have marijuana or CBD oil, not marijuana, CBD oil.
So?
It's against Russian law.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So there's a whole diplomatic disaster that's going on with that, and obviously Brittany Griner is a well-known name in sport, so it gets a lot of attention. She's very tall,
not enough,
and
attention,
very
apparently.
athletic.
Just
and not enough attention to where she should be back.
She should be back already.
Yeah. The Wimbledon men's final has finished. Novak Djokovic beat Nick Kyrgios. These names are hard to pronounce. For his fourth consecutive Wimbledon title.
Okay.
So he's won it 4 years in a row now.
Great.
That marks, I think, 3 of the 4 majors in tennis have been completed now. The final one is the U.S. Open that's going to be taking place in August and into September.
Are there tennis conferences?
No.
Is there a Big 10 tennis?
No.
Big 14? No. Are there schools for tennis, or is it still individualized?
Tennis clubs and coaches exist, but no, there's like the conferences that I was talking about are all college. All of the sports go into that conference. So if you're in the Big 10, regardless of what sport you're playing, and if you're on Ohio State or Michigan State or Iowa or Minnesota, you play against teams within the Big 10. So the same schools.
Okay.
So like wrestling does the same thing.
Oh, it applies to all sports.
Correct. There are some exclusions that happen. Like Notre Dame has been independent for a lot of years, and they recently signed a contract where their men's football and basketball would compete in the ACC, which is the Atlantic Coast Conference, but the rest of their sports remained independent.
What does it mean to be independent?
It just means you do not belong to any conference, so you can schedule your own games and create your own schedule based on what you want to do, as opposed to having the conference governing body deciding your competition schedules.
Isn't that better?
Not necessarily, because it requires more work from your athletic department, and sometimes you have a harder time scheduling games or playing against what you would consider elite competition.
Okay. All right. It's over my head, but
in my opinion, I think if everybody was independent, it'd be a little bit harder to determine who's the better team in the nation for when you do the major championships, like the NCAA men's basketball tournament, or the NCAA women's basketball tournament. Like, playing within those conferences help them play against higher levels of competition to then showcase that they can compete at the highest level and potentially win the championship.
That's good information. You want a fun fact?
Yeah.
The world's fastest tennis serve was 156 miles an hour.
Who served it?
I don't remember.
Oh.
Why would I remember that?
You're looking up sports stuff, though.
No, I was watching a video. Someone made a trebuchet that was powered by a flywheel, and he was trying to get it to throw a tennis ball faster than the fastest tennis serve in the world. And it was very difficult to do. It required a lot of energy, a very robust trebuchet. And this thing, even when it was below the world record, it flew. It was nuts. So like someone actually serving that thing at 156 miles an hour is unreal.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Anyway, fun fact.
That was a great fun fact.
Thank you.
I think that'll conclude our live update of sports happenings in the world.
All right, we'll be back next week with more sports. We're going to get into the world of motorsports, where humans actually use their brain and we're like, aha, I don't have to sweat. I don't need an ice bath. I can build a machine that can do it better. And that way, I can go faster than any human could. I can accelerate quicker than any human can or ever will.
All right.
Motorsports.
All right. Imagine this. And this is before electric. Hot pavement.
Okay.
Steam rising. Smell of rubber. Gasoline. Engines revving. Crowds screaming. A checkered flag. A green flag. The green flag is first for when they say go, and the checkered flag is at the end of the race.
You should have said that one first.
Motorsports. What are motorsports?
Ding! Sports with a motor. Done. I win. You put a motor in a sport and you go.
The rules of defining require that you don't use words that are within the word you are defining.
I switched them around.
You still use the 2 words.
All right, it's a competition. What were the rules? I need to go back to the... Will, please play the first episode, but in 5 seconds. All right, thank you. So that's sport. That I just defined sport.
All right.
And then motor.
Apparently, you're allowed to use sport in the definition.
Okay. It's a sport with a motor. It's a sport with a device that propels by consuming energy to output physical action. Motor.
I like it. So, according to the Oxford Dictionary, a sport involving the racing of motor vehicles, especially cars and motorcycles.
Okay, all right.
What different types of motorsports are there? Just talking about vehicles.
Okay, you got your bikes, cars. Formula One is still cars, but it's technically different.
An open wheel
monster truck rallies.
Yep.
Boat.
Yep.
Plane.
Yep.
Blimp racing.
There's no blimp racing.
There's motors. You can put a motor on a blimp.
We don't blimps. No, blimps are too expensive, and no, there's no blimp racing.
At one point in human history,
there probably was.
Blimps have raced. I guarantee you that.
Yes.
If there's anything that can go at a certain speed, there's been 2 people that have been like, I can go faster than you. I'll kill your family. No way you can.
All right. So we've got cars.
Submarines.
It's not on my list, but yes.
War. They're racing.
War. They are racing. They're racing them torpedoes.
Unicycles.
It's not on here because most of the time when you say that type of cycle, it's mostly
electric unicycle. I doubt there are right now.
Yeah,
there probably will be at some point. Those things go
sure.
fast.
All right, you want me to list them off?
Yeah, please.
All right. So we have car racing. There's a lot of different types of cars, but car racing. Motor rallying, which is like rally sports. It's usually a dirt track.
Where you have the guy in the passenger seat. Yeah.
Motorcycle racing. Motocross is also like motorcycle because it's dirt bikes.
Okay.
Air racing, which is the planes. Kart racing, which is, you get in those little go-karts. Boat racing, hovercraft racing, snowmobile racing,
hoverboard racing.
Not on here.
You know those stupid little two-wheelie things.
That you know what? We technically sort of did that with Team Edge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Truck racing, which you talked about with Monster Truck. Lawnmower racing.
Ooh, that'd be a fun one. That'd be a fun one. I love that idea.
So those are like the basic sections of them. But
lawnmower is a standardized section of it. I mean,
there's things that are like tractor pulls, but that's not a racing. So tractor racing is usually what it's referred to as.
Okay, gotcha.
But for just car, this is all under auto car racing. You have endurance, you have autocross, you have auto grass, you have auto speedway, you have drifting, you have rally raid, you have rally racing, you have rally cross, hill climbing, sports car racing, sprint car racing, stock car racing, touring car racing, formula racing, drag racing, banger racing, mud bogging, and demolition derbies are all considered motorsports. Going into motorcycle, you have enduro, you have endurocross, you have supercross, you have supermoto, you have motorcycle trials, you have auto race, you have hill climbing motorcycle, you have motocross, you have freestyle motocross, you have motorcycle road racing, you have motorcycle sidecar racing, you have motorcycle trials, you have motorcycle gymkhana, you have motorcycle speedway, rally racing, and motorball.
Whoa.
Other vehicles, you have kart racing, lawnmower racing, tractor pulling, land speed records for all the different vehicles. On water and ice, you have jet sprint, which is sprint boat racing, drag boat racing, power boat racing, jet ski racing, hovercraft racing, hydroplane racing, ice speedway, car ice racing, snowmobile racing. And that's just a few to list.
Good God. What the hell?
Needless to say, there are numerous sports utilizing motors as racing.
Okay.
And not all of them are racing. You have time trials, which is a form of racing, but you have hill climbs, which
how
you
strong
have to,
the motor is.
Yeah, getting up there. Tractor pulls, they're usually pulling against each other and trying to pull somebody the other direction. Like
somebody in the middle.
The modern torture chamber.
You just get one of the strong men, and see how hard they can hold it. 2 sports in one. It's amazing.
Ripped in half.
Yeah. Well, they let go, before. But if they're really into it, they hold on.
But yeah, motorsports are numerous and massive. The most famous motor races.
Wait. Let me think. I know a couple.
Yeah. Okay.
Not Kentucky Derby's horse.
That is horse racing.
Indy 500.
That is one of them.
That's it. I got nothing else.
All right. You have the Monte Carlo Rally.
The what?
Monte Carlo Rally was first held in 1911.
Oh, wow.
You have the Isle of Man TT, which is a pinnacle motorcycle racing event.
The Isle of Man in the UK?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
24 hours of Nürburgring. It's in Germany. I probably mispronounced that. Pikes Peak Hill Climb, first held in 1916. You have Dakar Rally, which was first held in 1979.
Do you also have the Boat Rally? All right, I'm out of here. See you, man. I gotta go. I'm back now. Don't look at me like that. Why you got that look on your face, man?
The Dakar Rally is a race that puts a whole new spin on the phrase, to finish first, you must first finish.
So you gotta come?
No.
What are you gonna do?
You have to be able to finish the race. Not only do vehicles often not finish the race, numerous people have died in this race.
Oh, shit. So I shouldn't be joking about it.
It's a very
This is
deadly
the one
race.
thing I shouldn't have made jokes in. It's the only one that I made the most jokes about.
When it comes to rally racing, no race is as brutal and vicious.
Oh, shit.
Baja is close, but this is the most deadly race. Bathurst 1000, first held in 1916, is a V8 supercar race held annually on Mount Panorama. The Daytona 500, major NASCAR race. It's North America's only rival to the Indy 500.
How many people have died in Dakar race?
I don't have it in front of me. I can look it up.
Can you also look at how many people have died in the boat race?
76 people.
Wow.
Since 1979.
Why do they allow it to be
23
raced?
were motorcycle, 6 were car related, 1 truck, and 2 competitors died as a result of local rebel conflict.
Oh, what?
That's what it says.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go on.
Oh my gosh. People in the audience have died too.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one of the famous races. Woo. Daytona 500 is NASCAR. It's the rival to the Indy 500. It's NASCAR, which is not the open rail.
Oh, those
racing.
aren't the same thing?
No. Daytona is a different place than Indianapolis.
Well, okay.
Daytona Beach,
I
Florida.
know that.
Okay.
But actually, I guess I didn't know that because I thought they were the same thing. They both have 500.
Yeah.
Is it 500 laps?
Yes.
Oh.
Monaco Grand Prix, first held in 1929. This is a Formula One race, and Formula One is hands down the most popular motorsport in the world. And that's an open wheel race. That's why the Indy 500, being an open wheel race, is the only one in the U.S. Formula One is all open wheel racing.
What does open wheel mean?
You know, like on a car, you have your car goes around and over the wheel.
Right.
The wheel is fully exposed.
Okay, gotcha.
Like it has something in front of it and something in back of it, but there's nothing over the top.
That makes a difference?
Yeah.
Why?
It just has to do with aerodynamics.
Okay.
And how the wheels are fitted and how they're generally bigger, they're generally wider wheels. It's just a different design to a car.
Gotcha. And just like Formula One is those are specifically designed to be the fastest cars possible, right?
Not exactly.
No?
No. There are faster cars in the world.
Yeah.
Drag racing goes way faster than Formula One.
Okay.
Because they're going just straight.
Yeah, straight line.
Yeah.
Whereas Formula One is curvies.
Yes.
And so they got to be the fastest and most agile car.
Correct.
Okay.
There's a lot of restrictions and stuff into that. Mm-hmm. The Indianapolis 500, which we talked about, first held in 1911. And then the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which if you ever watched the movie Ford v Ferrari, yes, it takes place in France.
Your hometown.
God. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm German, not French.
How would you know?
You're right. I don't.
Would you know?
Nobody knows where anybody really truly originated and came from, do we?
There you go. Now you're thinking.
What seed was planted into the ground that created human existence? For all we know, we're all from Mars.
I mean, didn't they just recently find an asteroid that had the fragments of the base parts of DNA on the meteorite?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they found it a few times, but the most recent one was more substantial.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But the 24 Hours of Le Mans was a pinnacle race in which Ford, in their first attempt in there, created the Ford GT, which our friend Captain Sparkles owns a Ford GT.
Oh, I rode in it.
Ferrari. And so it was a huge thing because it was right after Ferrari went bankrupt. Ford went to acquire them. The owner of Ferrari, I can't remember his exact name. His last name's Ferrari. Refused to sell to Ford and insulted Ford Motors, according to history. And so much so that it was, we are now going to go and beat you at your favorite race that you have owned for years and years and years in Ferrari's pursuit of the perfect vehicle, perfection.
Okay.
He went bankrupt to constantly win Le Mans.
Wasn't there a similar story about Lamborghini?
I don't know.
Whereas, like, Ferrari just seems like he pissed off a lot of people. And I think it was like someone named Lamborghini was like made tractors or something and then got pissed off at Ferrari and was like, I'll make an even better car. And I don't know if it's better, but it's...
I mean, you know, that's a lot of toxic masculinity, you know. You're mean to one another and it's like, I'm going to beat you at this.
What? I've never experienced that a day in my life.
What do you mean, Mark?
I don't feel called out right now. All right.
No, but it's just that competition that when somebody like insults you, you want to show them up.
Yeah, fuck you energy.
Yeah. So those are some of the most famous in motorsport.
Okay.
Now, Act 2. Motorsport is unique in and of itself, right? Because it requires a machine.
Sure.
It not only requires a machine, it requires a person to drive and operate said machine.
Sure.
Not only on that, it generally requires, for most races, you need to have pit crew to refill the gas tank, to change out parts that are broken. And also, like, it's the same thing in esports, changing out, or not esports, the Formula E, which is the new version of, like, Formula race cars that are electric. You still need the pit crew. And even then, you have somebody talking into the driver's ears, giving them pointers about what's going on in the track, if an accident happened ahead or different stuff happened for safety purposes. So all of this is important, but every sport has specifications to make sure the playing field is fair. So engineers work diligently to try and find the fastest car and build the fastest and most efficient thing.
Okay.
Speaking to Formula One, there are dimension specifications. And this is all motorsports really in general. There are major areas where you have to fit within. So dimensions. You can't be too wide. You can't be too long. The inside has to be a certain size. Sometimes you are required to have parts. Formula One now requires drivers to have a halo device that protects the driver.
Good.
Yes. There's also weight requirements. You have to be above a certain weight. You can't be too light. There's also ones where you can't be too heavy. Engine size. For Formula One, I believe you're required to have a 6-liter engine V6.
Okay.
And so they give you the base specifications, but obviously you build your own motor, and every different motor can be slightly different, but it has to be a certain size. Sometimes different types have output requirements. It can only be so much torque or so much horsepower or this or that, because they want to make it as fair as possible for everybody in the race to be able to compete at the same level, to where it's really the driver that has a major impact in the race. Sometimes they have requirements for the number of gears you're allowed to have, whether it requires reverse or not. Sometimes they require trunk space to fit in certain categories of, like, a touring car versus a race car versus a stock car.
Why would trunk space matter?
It just was required in the sense of how much cargo space is there, so that you have to have enough air and not weight, so your engine doesn't take up too much of your car.
Wait, that's why it's called stock. It's because it's from... But no, it's not. Wait, hold on. So a stock car, what race is a stock car race?
NASCAR's are stock car.
NASCAR is stock car. So I remember something about this. The stock car is a production line car that they modify. And I guess the rules, because I know they rip out the seats, they rip out anything, upholstery, anything like that. Is the engine still the same stock engine?
They obviously, like, modify the engines and stuff like that too.
Okay.
It's the idea of stock car racing. What it has evolved into is that the outside look of it looks like a stock car.
Okay.
Like a naturally created car. But they
naturally created? The one that grew out of the ground.
Grew out of the ground.
It's an organic Ford right here.
It's similar in look to a car that you would see driving on the road.
Okay, all right. But the rest of it, and that's why trunk space must be maintained, because otherwise they would just shave the back of it off, right? It almost looks like in some of those, it's like some of those are sedans in shape, which would be a waste of space if you're trying to go faster. But I get it now. I understand why the trunk space.
It was originally used production model cars, so it was straight out of the production line.
Yeah. Gotcha. Which would be an interesting race if there's a pure stock car race. Because, I mean...
There are.
Ooh.
There are still production line
But
races.
They're probably boring because they don't go that fast.
They don't go... Well, some production cars have some pretty good speed.
You're right. Some do, yeah.
If you have a vehicle of some kind, there's probably a race for it.
Hell yeah, brother.
Because, I mean, competition is in our nature.
It's true. Actually, Ren from Corridor, just this last weekend, he was at the one-wheel, like, world championship race, which is like 20 people.
Yeah.
Because there's not that many people that are at a high level of one-wheeling, but it's growing, right? And, of course, as soon as something is like, there's 10 people in a room that do this thing that was just invented, they're going to go, hey, which one of us is the fastest? You know, that's natural. It's humans.
Well, even the swagways that, like...
The swagways.
The hoverboards.
Yeah.
They created, like...
the name of them.
Yeah. They made off-road ones, and there were actual off-road races with those things that existed for a while when they were really popular.
Oh, man.
Because if it's created with a motor, everybody always is like, I want to see if I'm faster than you.
Exactly.
Mine's faster than yours.
Always. And I think those painted a bad picture of what electronic transport could be.
Yeah.
They got really popular because, like, all these different influencers started riding on them. And really, they're terribly impractical and kind of stupid, and they were prone to exploding, right?
Yeah.
Because they had poor quality lithium batteries in them. And for those that don't know, lithium is a very volatile atom. It basically will react to a lot of things, especially water, when they're in a battery that is not well maintained, not temperature protected, not impact protected. Any kind of thing that goes wrong could short it out. They don't just fail, they explode violently.
Yeah.
They release all that energy that they had stored in a huge flame.
Which is why in the specifications like Formula One, safety equipment is required.
Yeah.
Gearbox, all of those different specifications qualify you to then be able to enter in the race. But engineers obviously have to work diligently to get the most out of every piece of that vehicle.
Yeah.
Whether it's, if we make this slight adjustment to the engine to where it hits this differential this way, we get that much more output of torque. Like the fine tuning and ingenuity, the competition starts with the creation of the vehicle and the modification of the vehicle. So you have a battle between engineers.
Yeah. Which I think is so cool.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were engineering competitions happen in college all the time.
Yeah.
The most popular one that people watch is like the robotics competitions.
Yeah.
So you have engineer competitions. You have the driver themselves competing against other drivers. But they also have the pit stops racing each other, the pit crew, who has the fastest pit stop. Because if I can get my guy back on that track a millisecond faster, that's that much more of a lead or an advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Every single level of that race is who's the fastest at everything. The guy talking in their ear is probably the fastest to get them updated information. Everything's about speed. I love that. The engineering nerds pushing up their glasses like, I can design this faster than you.
Yeah.
I love every part of that.
It was a huge deal when Ford versus Ferrari in Le Mans, in that they actually, the way the vehicle worked, they had issues with the brakes. And they had to create their own replaceable brake assembly because they couldn't just take the pads off.
Yeah.
Because it would have taken too long. They learned how to it would be faster to take the entire assembly off and put a new assembly in using like some other engineers they found had shown how you can just make the assembly go in and out.
Yeah.
And they used that in their pit stops during Le Mans, which is 24 hours of driving, to have that advantage, because otherwise they would have lost so much more time on the track trying to replace these burnt out pads.
Yeah, and this is what I love about competition in general. And you know, capitalist mayhem and nightmare aside, competition does drive innovation. And whether it comes down to these races where these engineers are trying to eke out the tiniest bit of performance to the space race of the Cold War, trying to get to the moon first. The amount of technologies that were invented because of that race in such a tiny amount of time, like literally a 5-year span. Well, it was actually like 8 to 12 years years of, but in that tiny window of human history, the amount of strides that were made because of the absolute need to get there, no matter what, and to do it right, safely, question mark, like quote
yeah, there was
unquote
like,
safely.
If you've ever watched like the historical documents of like the distance, like the thickness of the walls that the astronaut had between them and outer space was so small.
It's just the margins of error for getting there, the amount of fuel that they had. But that's what I love, when human brain power is working at its peak.
Yeah.
And it's like this group drive. There's a word for this feeling that occurs when humans are, say, at a concert. They're experiencing an emotion together all at the same time. I know that's the driving force of why people love to go to concerts, not just for the music, but for that connection to other people. It's why they go to stadiums, to feel that. You can feel the electricity in the air. I forget what the actual term is, but there is a human psychology term for it. And I love it because there's a sister term that I can't remember, but it's when everyone is pointed in the same direction with the same goal. And it's like, there can be no failure. It's so beautiful. It grinds people to dust underneath it. This is where the nightmare part of the that comes in. But it's like all towards one common goal. I love that.
Well, and my favorite part about that is in those moments, you can find the people that will absolutely set aside their ego and recognize, you know this field better than I do, but I know this better than you do.
Yeah.
And how they collectively end up intertwining. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's why I love to relate humans. People think that humans, if they ever make it to space and stuff like that, they'll be like standing at like equals in terms of these other noble aliens. I don't think so. I think humans are the orcs of the universe. I really do. We just get in these big metal contraptions, we hit them with wrenches, we're like, oh, go fat. You know, orcs from 40K.
Oh,
they're hilarious. I
the
love
way
them.
they just make random weapons like, this goes here,
it
work.
works. You know, it's just like, they're so guttural, but everything they do is just like trying to go faster, trying to make it go bigger, trying to blow up things with bigger, more DACA. You know, you got to have more, and they're just screaming, hooting, and hollering. And I'm like, that's what humanity looks like. If aliens are watching us right now, that is what we look like. I kind of suspect that the rest of the universe does not approach speed and sport in the same way that we do. We have this need to compete in our blood, and it's undeniable. I love it in certain aspects. I hate it in others, but, you know, love it or hate it, kind of humanity loves competition.
Yeah, and that's the greatest thing about motorsports. As I've looked into it more and more over my life, further understood how far the competition goes. Because initially it's like, oh, this is boring, it's just the driver. I'm like, no, the engineers, the crew, like everything involved. Like the driver is the one who gets the most accolades because he's the most famous person. He's the one behind the wheel of the car. Yeah. And if he screws up, everybody's work is nonsense.
Yeah.
But, it's just beautiful when it works and the way minds work. Like imagine, you know, when they were trying to think about re-entry, imagine being that one person that was like, no, it's impossible to absorb all of it. We need to reflect it. And everybody's mind just going, oh, because it was like, this is literally impossible. Like they were stuck on that for so long.
You're talking re-entry into the atmosphere. For those that are not keeping up with it.
Yeah.
Not Formula One or Indy 500 or anything like that.
Re-entry into the vehicle.
Re-entry into the atmosphere, because yes, it is just an ungodly amount of energy. There's no way to actually absorb it. So they need to deflect it. They need to shed it off somehow.
Yeah, and just the math people just being like, that's what we need to do. And then it all was like, it's possible.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
It is.
So that was Act 2. Act 3, the human element. Your guy is behind the wheel, and you're talking about something that's going... Or girl, yeah. Guy to me is non-gendered. I call everybody guy, I call everybody dude. So I apologize for that if other people get confused by that. But whoever is behind the wheel of the vehicle, the minute fractions of movement to control a vehicle going hundreds of miles an hour, or behind a bike, or behind a jet ski, or a boat, or a plane, like one fraction of an inch can result in a major crash. One minuscule slip of the hand could result in losing control of the vehicle. Not braking just enough, you don't make the turn. The angles, the eye-hand coordination, the motor skills, not only for a short time, but you're doing 500 laps in like the Indy 500 or the Daytona or the Le Mans for 24 hours. Granted, they switch out drivers. Insane.
Yeah.
Endurance is massive. So we are going to build the perfect elements of a motorsports team. From the engineers to the pit crew to the driver to the team lead, who's the guy on the radio.
Okay.
So let's start with the engineers, Mark.
Okay, the engineers building the car?
Yes.
All right. Well...
They're cars themselves.
Am I making this like the freak athlete?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm giving you the opportunity to create the most freak team imaginable.
Okay, all right. So you've got the engineers, right? They need to be thinkers, right? But also they need to be able to rapidly prototype, because the biggest detriment to being able to execute on engineering changes and ideas is how fast you can iterate upon that idea. So they need to have 3D printers built into their the latest level, and they actually eat the resin that they're using to print, and it's a carbon fiber laced food, so that they're printing carbon fiber parts so they can quickly iterate upon functional parts that can actually be used and have certain amounts of strength. They do make metal 3D printers, but they're large and cumbersome, and they're very difficult to do. I'm assuming they're going to shit out these parts. So, So huge brains, they're able to process model in their minds, and then they're all able to link up one to another. They got Ethernet ports on the right side of their head and like connectors in the left, so they chain up in a big circle, and they got to go like, oh, as they consume nothing but solid bricks of carbon fiber, and then they shit out the parts. And then these parts would all interlink, obviously, and they would be able to build the car much faster and get engine tweaks going very quickly, right?
I like how I imagine what you're going to do, and then you do something way different than I thought. I was like, they're like Cars, the movie.
Why would the Cars know?
Cars know about cars.
Cars don't have any dexterity. They don't have, unless it's cars that are constant. Then you have a nightmare scenario where you have a car breeding facility, because the only way for cars to make better cars would be to fuck other cars and make more cars. Do you want me to go down that route? No, I've got human 3D printers. All right, that's the limit of what I'll do.
All right.
Ethically, it's okay. This one is okay.
All right, so engineers done.
All right, done. Okay.
Pit crew.
All right. So they're just really fast.
they're all the Flash. Is that it?
Yeah. Okay. So I don't really know what is in a pit crew. I know there's guys that change out the wheels. There's probably a guy that refuels,
there's
right?
a gas guy. There's the flagger who puts the flag down to stop the car. He usually runs. There's the jack to lift the car so that they can change the wheels. There's the bolt guy for the lug nuts. He's the nut boy. He goes in there and gets the lug nuts.
That made you laugh.
Because the way you said it.
I didn't say
You're like, the nut boy.
You were laughing before.
Because I couldn't think of what it was, and I was like, lug nuts. He's a lugger. Nope, he's a
nut boy.
Nut boy.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you have like the lead, right?
The lead?
Well, usually the lead is the team lead. He also works with the pit crew as well as the radio.
Okay.
But I would just keep him separate. And then the inspector who's following behind to make sure all the lug nuts are secure and safety is there. Brakes are the same thing. It depends on the race you're doing. So we're just focusing on cars right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, honestly, I don't see how you can improve it without like stitching the tools into their arms. And even then, I feel like that might be a detriment because honestly, having the dexterity of fingers and tools is actually better to be able to be adaptable, because what if one of your friends' lug nut
gets
arm
hit
explodes or something like that, then you can pick up the tool. I think it's actually better just to keep these baseline humans. But I do think you can get a speed advantage by whoever's got the jack at the end of it. You just sacrifice that one. You run him right over. So the time you save, like dropping the car and getting him out of the way, why not just run him right over? Make him disposable.
Oh my God. It's the sacrificial Jack.
Yeah.
They're all named Jack.
You just got a cloning vat of Jacks over in the left side.
I'm going to jack it.
It's my time.
In front of the car.
I'm going to jack it. You live for a purpose. They're honored. But that's the only change I'd make, All right, what's next?
The crew lead.
Okay, eyes in the sky, obviously. So very tall. About 500 feet tall.
Is it just neck or is it like the whole?
Take your pick. I feel like having even distribution amongst the limbs would create the most stability, but they are also super long arms, so they're stable, right? If they're just on two legs, the wind would blow them over. So they're long,
they just hold
arms.
on to the edges of the stick.
You know, have you watched Attack on Titan?
Yeah.
The Colossus. The Colossal Titan. It's basically that huge. So, yeah, eyes in the sky, able to see everything, and radio built in the head. Not much different.
I mean, why not just give them wings and make them a bird?
Well, then they got a flap, and that might throw them off.
They're distracted because they got a flap. As if they're not distracted trying to dodge airplanes. With
Look, if you give a human the power of actual flight, they're not going to stick around be a NASCAR lead. They're going to go fly. You can't have that kind of freedom. The Colossal Titan, you can't really move without crushing anybody. So long as you keep the murderous instinct in check, yeah, they're going to stay there. So you just keep them there. Right? I've thought about this. I've thought it through, Tyler.
There's deep thoughts.
Clearly you have not.
The driver.
Okay.
That's the last part of the team.
Aren't there rules about stock? So you can't exactly make the driver anything other than extremely lightweight, right? That would be the only benefit. But you have a strength to weight ratio, right? So really, no legs. That's a given. Control the things with your hands. You could do that. Honestly, no.
The pedals you still use.
No, use your hands for those instead. Make hand version.
You have a gas go pedal. Because pretty much all the shifting and stuff is done here, like the clutches and everything.
Yeah, just have the fingers be a go finger.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly, and that's it. So that way, I know there's like a hydraulic system you don't want probably in the car, and because I know I've watched like Mythbusters, they did an episode on NASCAR driving, and they had to like pushing the actual gas pedal and brake pedal are really difficult because there's no hydraulic system.
Yeah.
So because it saves weight, but I bet if you chop off your legs, like that's just as much weight saved. Then you don't even need the pedals. Then you just get little buttons, right?
I feel like they would have already done that if that would have worked.
They would hire legless drivers?
No, I think they would have already put it in the steering wheel if that would have been more.
But they weren't thinking about
efficient.
cutting off the legs.
Okay, fair.
All right, if we're really going all out, you would not have anything below the belly button, really. It'd just be a rib cage floating that's mounted in there.
And they just secure
arms.
it. It's like a twist on.
Exactly, yeah.
So seatbelt's gone because you're securely.
You don't need it. I don't know, really. Like, you need to be endurational. What's the word?
You need to have endurance. Endurational? What? You need a lot of stamina? Like, what?
I mean, really for this, because I know that you need to, like, be able to have minute movements and stuff like that. So anything is just weight saving. But if really moving it up to the hands, you could keep the legs, I guess, if that is the... someone can do the math. It just seems like a lighter guy that's kind of quick, right? Mm-hmm. That's what it is. Really, there's not much to be changed there because it's all about the machine, right?
I mean, to a point, I would have focused like on their vision, their motor skills, like being able to recognize and immediately react really well.
Well, I mean, how are you going to improve that?
It's just how I would describe it.
Well, because right now, technology isn't to the point where we can do better than the human eye.
Correct.
And the brain's processing speed is, I mean, technically a computer could do faster, but then you take the human element out of it. I'm trying to retain as much of that as possible.
Well, I think in that fact, I was just focused on the human, because not all humans like have the same level of motor skills and reaction time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like actual people that play video games have been shown to have some of the best reaction times of athletes in general.
Yeah.
When it comes to like just quick movements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And controlled quick movements especially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that more people, it's just like the training, right? It's the amount of stuff that you do in terms of getting to that point. I think baseline humans are usually roughly on the same plane, more or less. There are freak athletes here. So you just get the freak athlete that's best at the NASCAR stuff. I really don't think there's much to change about it. It would be just whoever's a good driver.
Yeah. And I mean, especially if you keep the full human element, then they can be a driver for any of the sports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether they're on a jet ski, in a monster truck, in a demolition derby car, or whatever they want.
Yeah, other than that, it's normal Indy. You just got the Colossal Titan on the outer perimeter. You got your 3D printer engineers in the back. You know, it's normal racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of like different versions of motor racing there are, because you're talking about different tracks, right? You have your tracks that are on roads. Mm-hmm. There's grass tracks. There's dirt tracks. There's cross country tracks where you hit all of them. Like, and to think about all the different levels of ingenuity for each specific sport, whether it's motorcycle, motocross, boats, jet skis, snowmobiles, trucks, like all across the board, the amount of engineering, the thought process to innovate, to adapt to each different environment or the weather or various things that happen, because there are obviously like wet and dry tires. You know, and so the thought process, the planning and everything that goes into it is absolutely tremendous. And the engineering part was the biggest thing that I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that part.
Yeah.
And why like motorsports are a huge deal. And I love in particular that we are starting to have electric come into the motor racing field, because the amount of fuel that is used for these sports is insane.
Yeah, a little bit. But honestly, I would love to talk more about electric because I have so many thoughts on electric, but we are out of time for this episode.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. There's a lot to cover in terms of motorsports and motors in general. And this is really like when it comes to engineering and technology stuff, I love that topic. Yeah. I would love to talk about more of that.
Well, you know what?
What?
Then I'll give you some homework.
Homework?
You bring to the table an electric motor racing or electric version of this to the table.
Okay.
Your own episode about that. And I think it could be a really good driving force because it's something you look into far more than I do.
Okay.
So electric technology and how it pertains to motor racing or innovation in general.
Okay. All right.
So
I'm ready.
You ready? You get to go. You get to go and look into
how much research I've been doing in the past month of just pure electric transport.
That's exactly why I think this is fitting.
I've done so much thinking about this exact thing. Oh my God, I'm ready. I'm ready to ejaculate my opinions on the internet.
Well, thank you all so much for listening to what is the tip of the iceberg for motorsport. If you want us to dive into more particulars like Formula One, stuff like that, we can possibly get into that later, but I just wanted to talk about it as a whole because it is so diverse and so interesting. And each individual sport has its own details to get into, but an overall spectrum to give appreciation to motorsports as a whole, I thought was more fitting at this time.
Sounds good to me. Thank you. We have an announcement.
We do.
A big announcement. You guys have been waiting for it. You guys have been clamoring for it, and now it's finally here. Actually, you guys haven't been waiting for it because you probably listen to the podcast on a podcast place. But the YouTube channel is launching with highlights coming at you 3 times a week.
Yes, they will be coming Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Efficient scheduling for everybody to enjoy so that we can rely more on the accountable YouTube algorithm to suggest and make us the #1 sports podcast in the world.
And on top of that, there will be bonus live action stuff that does appear on the YouTube channel when we are able to get that done.
Absolutely. Tyler being my butler will happen. Tyler being my chauffeur
will happen. No, you being my chauffeur.
It's guaranteed.
I can't even say
he can't even say it because he's too afraid. But thank you, and get ready to go watch some cool sports-related content.
Yeah. Check us out on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever the hell we are as individuals, as well as the podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye-bye.